Hi, my name is Taylor, and today I have Michael in with me today to talk about Man in a Cabbage Field, a painting done by Edvard Munch in 1916. Michael, my first question for you is, what is your initial reaction to this piece of art, and what do you think that it is depicting?
Well, Taylor, my initial reaction to the piece by Edvard Munch is one of extreme happiness. We see these bright, vivid colors that just flood the page. There's a work of and mixture of complementary and analogous colors that truly, when Munch used composing it, it really conveys this happiness to it. However, when you take a second and closer look, we can examine that the character in the landscape and how all the colors work together create a piece that in all actuality is one of great distress and strain.
What about the use of color plays into your emotional reaction to this piece?
To me, the mix of deep and light greens and the teals give this sense of this life and growth in the piece. While the ambers and the burnt reds that are in the hillsides create more of a feeling that much effort was given towards getting a crop to grow in this land. Really, this figure makes me feel admiration for him simply because he's working so hard in such what appears to be a dry place.
And like you said, he looks exhausted, almost as if what he's holding in his hand is very heavy. And I think that we can also see this on the man's face. What is your reaction to the look on the face?
When I examined the face for the first time, I didn't really see much emotion on it. And that's simply because I was probably distracted by all the vivid colors that are around him in the painting. However, when I take a second look, we can see that there is a lot of exhaustion on this figure's face. And it's not necessarily representing any one person in particular, but just a feeling of exhaustion. We can see that with the highlights that are on the cheek and the nose. And it really shows that this person is working hard and sweating. We can also see that the man's mouth is wide open as though he can't get enough air to breathe. And so that's the feeling that I get from that figure.
I think also interesting to note about this is the artist's choice to have almost painted this man in with the field he's working on. What is your reaction to how he's painted this man's feet?
We see the feet as not really a part of the figure, but molding into the land itself, as though this person is being consumed by the land that he's working or being consumed by the work that he's doing. And that's another thing that truly makes me admire this figure.
Well, we've examined color and scenes a little bit so far. Next, I want to ask you about the composition of this piece and how do you think that affected your reaction?
It's interesting that you mentioned composition next after the figure itself, simply because the figure plays such a major role in the composition of the piece. We see linear perspective creating a triangle in the center of the piece that leads to the figure's head. And that's where I think Edvard Munch wants our attention to be, is on the face of the figure. We see that the shoulders are weighted down, so it really adds to that triangle, that pyramid type shape that's leading to the face.
What is your reaction to the triangle? What do you think Edvard Munch was trying to say by using linear perspective and having, a pretty obvious triangle in this painting?
Well, I think that he was trying to get at that this work, whatever work that this figure is doing, or be the work that whatever the audience member is doing, it has a structure to it. It has a very nice balance to it. If you take a look at the painting, the figure is centered and it almost seems symmetrical, but it's balanced like that. It's still asymmetrical, but it's so completely balanced.
And what do you think the linear perspective perhaps shows about this man working on what we can see as maybe a farm, or about work in general?
I think that the linear perspective shows the infinity of work. If you look at the triangle, it almost seems as though the farm extends for distances forever. And I think that's what he's trying to get at, is that this work, although it seems like it's lasting an eternity, will pay off in the end.
What do you think that the artist was trying to evoke from this piece? We've talked about seeing this man as exhausted, seeing him as someone to be admired. Do you think that this was the message that Munch was trying to convey?
I think that was the message that Munch was trying to convey. I think he was also trying to draw a parallel between the hard work of a farmer and the work that it takes an artist to get a piece together. We can assume that because Munch grew up on a farm. He was born and raised on a farm, and so we can only assume that he had to go out into the field and work as a laborer as well. And I believe that he probably knew those strains that farm work had. And I think that what he's trying to get at is that as long as you're working as hard as you can, that labor is going to pay off in the end, much like a painting. If you put all your work and your effort and your feeling into it, you're going to get something that everyone will enjoy.
So after having analyzed this piece further with color composition and the general scene, does your initial reaction of happiness still hold true?
Sort of, in a way. When we look over it and see the happiness for the first time, it's a different sort of happiness than we feel at the end. When we examine it even further and delve deep into the piece of work, we see that it's conveying that hard work and that strain. But at the end, I think getting at that hard work is going to pay off in the end is really what he was trying to go after.
I would agree with you on that. Well, that was my final question for you. Thank you for talking about Man in a Cabbage Field by Edvard Munch.
Thank you very much.